Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump today out with a flurry of trade comments and stock market comments. He says, you should go out and buy stocks now. Wow, isn't that something? He also says that he wouldn't be surprised if a trade deal with China is reached. Ladies and gentlemen, the S&P is up 1.5% at the time of recording this video, and I will share with you all of your breaking news. Also, keep in mind that Tesla's stock is up 5% today because obviously getting a trade deal with China or suggesting that now is a good time to buy stocks from Donald Trump is a positive for a high beta, high growth company like Tesla. Donald Trump says we have tremendous things happening on trade. He says that he wouldn't be surprised if a trade deal is reached with China. And again, I think that's why markets are rallying so hard today, because before you get a trade deal, you're going to get a tariff pause, and the US and China are going to be meeting on Saturday. I think the odds are pretty good that we do get a pause on tariffs here pretty soon. And again, that's my speculation. That's what I've thought for over a week now. And I think that's what the markets are kind of getting out of this. After all, Donald Trump says the stock market will really rally now. Donald Trump even went as far as to say, quote, better go out and buy stocks now. Again, I think that's kind of hinting towards a China tariff pause. Like, it's almost over. I think that's what Wall Street is getting out of it, that the worst is behind us. Let me share with you the specific clip here that really caused markets to take off. Trump says, quote, you better go out and buy stocks now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up.
You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. You know, if we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, if it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. You know, Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. It's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing, unrelated to today, but related in the sense that if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much.
Now, the big news of the day today is the US trade deal with the UK. Essentially, it's going to drop the tariff rate from the UK from like 7% or so it was down to less than 2%. Our tariff rate from the UK is actually going up from a couple percentage points to 10%. And you're going to see a $5 billion market open up specifically for beef. And there's going to be more details coming out on this. But it's the first official trade deal with some exemptions for like Rolls-Royce and other luxury car brands that only sell a limited quantity of cars in the US a year. Not for mass producers like Ram, right? It's not for Rams or, other mass-produced vehicles, but luxury vehicles. So there's specific details. We don't have all of them as of now, but the first trade deal getting done surely is also a positive factor on markets today. Here you can see the U.S. Commerce Department says the U.S.-UK trade deal removes UK market barriers for U.S. exports of products including ethanol, beef, fruits, vegetables, animal feed, and tobacco. Trump says we're also going to be putting out a statement that says we've signed this country and that country. So before you even get press conferences, you will get statements of trade deals that have been reached. He also says that he is not concerned about UK-China ties. Trump says the US is doing well even without a Fed cut. He says that if Powell would lower rates, it would be like jet fuel, but talking to Powell is like talking to a wall. He just doesn't really respond. Trump says Powell is probably not in love with me. Trump says that companies are talking price hikes to negotiate with me. Trump says the Bank of England cut, China cut, everyone is cutting but Powell. Talking to Powell is like talking to a wall. Donald Trump also said today he does not want to bomb Iran. Trump, on if he'll ask China for Ukraine-Russia help, he says, I think so. So that could be part of a trade deal as well. Now, Donald Trump says the 10% tariff is set for UK is a low number, and it will be higher for other countries. Trump said, I think the 10% baseline is set, and it's not a template for future deals, suggesting that like China or India, other countries, is going to be higher than 10%. But guys, China has a 145% tariff on them right now. A 30% tariff on China would be seen as a big win. Now, I think it's probably going to be 15%. That's the number I've thrown out there. 10% possibly with other, kind of deals, right? Provisions to allow the U.S. market into China, which has virtually no penetration, could allow for a very low tariff rate and could be very positive for the U.S. There is a very positive outcome potential in a trade deal with China. It doesn't have to be a super high tariff rate. It could just be China opens their markets to the U.S. Okay, Chinese culture's a little different. Okay, they don't exactly indulge in a lot of the products that America does, or they're not as interested in a lot of the products that America has. That's fair, but I think there is plenty of room for compromise here, and I do think a pause on China tariffs is coming very soon. Trump says we want China to let our businesses in. That's what it's about, and if that's true, and if we get, let's say, 10%, 15% tariff rate on China, but China just opens up their markets, yeah, Trump might be right. It might be time to buy stocks. And Trump reiterates we want to compete in China, which I think is something that China is probably open to, right? China does a lot of business in the US. It would only be fair if we could compete in China as well. Trump says that China wants to do something towards getting a trade deal, even though we were the first ones to reach out to them. And Trump says that he thinks China talks will be substantive. Now, Trump was asked if this was more like just a formal, like meet and greet kind of meeting, or if there could be something coming out of this. And that's what Trump had to say. Trump said China tariffs can't get any higher than 145%. We know it's coming down. Again, we've known that, but it sounds good on the headlines when you hear comments like that. Trump on China says we could lower tariffs if talks go well, which, again, I think a pause would be the likely route there if talks go well. And UK's Prime Minister Starmer says we're sending a message to the world. Britain is open for business. Trump says, I think we'll have a good weekend with China. So lots of positive comments from Trump on China talks this weekend. Trump also says that he intends to make a deal with Europe. And Trump says we are very close to numerous deals. Trump says over time, changes will be made to deals. We're very flexible. And U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick says the UK will announce it will buy $10 billion worth of Boeing planes. Now, initial jobless claims this morning came in at 228,000, lower than the estimated 230,000. It's good to see this is not just blowing out, right? This is something that Wall Street's looking at very closely on a week-by-week basis to get a leading indicator of weakness in the labor market. You're not seeing too much of that weakness right now. Non-farm productivity, quarter over quarter, preliminary data for Q1, negative 0.8%. Estimate was negative 0.7%. And unit labor cost for Q1 came in at 5.7%, higher than the estimated 5.1%. So not great, not terrible at the same time. Wholesale inventories month over month came in lower than expected at 0.4% versus estimates of 0.5%. So that could help bring up maybe GDP just a little bit. Consumer inflation expectations, also a positive development today, came in at 3.6%. The estimate was 4%. So definitely beat the estimates here. It says U.S. consumer inflation expectations for the year ahead were unchanged at 3.6% in April 2025, the same as in March, holding at 2023 highs. Year ahead commodity price expectations increased for gas up 0.3 percentage points to 3.5%, medical care up 0.8 percentage points to 8.7%, college up 2.4 percentage points to 9.1%, rent up 1.8 percentage points to 9%, and home prices up 0.3 percentage points to 3.3%. In contrast, year ahead expected price of food decreased by 0.1 percentage points to 5.1%. Meanwhile, inflation expectations for the 3-year horizon rose to 3.2%, the highest reading since July of 2022, while inflation expectations for the 5-year ahead horizon decreased by 0.2 percentage points to 2.7%. This is from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So you actually had 5-year inflation expectations that came down today, which definitely a positive development. The percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average today at 55%. So you're again kind of at a neutral level. You're not super bullish, you're not super bearish at this point. Once you get to like 65+%, then you start to get to the higher end of like the bull spectrum here. 85% is like where rallies normally tend to peak out at, roughly. Okay, so you still got like 30% before that would happen. So I do think there can be more upside in this market, and especially with the dynamics that are currently at play in this market. You guys got to remember, hedge funds and institutions are severely under-allocated to this market, okay? They're short this market. They are not long this market, okay? These are some of the lowest levels of exposure that big money has. Now, if we get a pause on China tariffs, if we get a trade deal with China, even better, hedge funds and institutions will be forced to buy stocks because they can't miss the rally for their clients, okay? The reason they're under allocated right now is because of the severity of the risk, okay? There's a risk of a depression. There's a risk of, a booming economy this year. If you're short, that's obviously a risk, right? There's so many different outcomes this year that you can't be super allocated to markets, okay? And in the meantime, they've missed out on a lot of gains, but the next leg is likely going to be hedge funds and institutions that get reallocated to markets again. Because if we get a trade deal with China, recession risks plummet, inflation risks plummet, the odds of the Fed cutting rates dramatically increases. I mean, that's all of a sudden a very bullish setup for markets. And Trump even says, go out and buy stocks. I mean, I think he's indicating that there's some good news coming. Maybe that's crazy, a crazy thought, but it's the first time you heard Trump say, go out and buy stocks. Now, the AI investor sentiment survey came out today. 29.4% of investors are bullish. That is the highest level you have seen now, since back in February, since before this crash trade war started. Neutral investors at 19.0%. Look at that. Bearish investors at 51.5%. So still very elevated. Okay. Historical average is 31.0% bears. So you're 21 points higher than historical average, right? Or 20 points higher than historical averages. But this is the lowest level you've been at in this crash correction so far. That is almost 8 percentage point drop from last week. So there's definitely starting to be a little bit of a tide turning as far as the mood in markets. But again, people are still very bearish. Retail has been the ones that have really been supporting this market, that have been buying the dip in this market. And they're the ones so far that have been rewarded. I do think hedge funds and institutions have a lot of catching up to do. Now, the CNN Fear and Greed Index is coming in at 62 today. Market momentum is still in extreme fear. Stock price strength is neutral. Stock price breadth, extreme greed. Put and call options is fear. So look at that. Put and call options still in fear. Like, people are not going out and buying calls. They're still very much on edge. Market volatility is neutral. Safe haven demand in extreme greed, and junk bond demand in extreme greed. So I think there's, again, some of these extreme greed factors like safe haven demand and junk bond demand are skewing this headline number on the CNN Fear and Greed Index to look a lot better than it actually is. If you look at stock price strength, that's neutral. If you look at market momentum, that's an extreme fear. Stock price breadth is an extreme greed, right? That just means there's a lot of correlation right now. On green days, a lot of stocks are going up. On red days, a lot of stocks are falling. So yeah, the number's at 62. You're almost midpoint in greed, but you're not in a greedy market. So I think it's a little kind of deceptive, if you will, what the number looks like as of right now. Now let's go ahead and get into all of your Tesla stock breaking news. Today, Tesla is up 4%, trading at $287 per share. The big level we need to break above is $291.71 per share. That is the 200-day moving average here. And I do think if we get good news overnight tonight, potentially a pause on China tariffs, I think that's just kind of a good faith measure heading into negotiations. You could see Tesla break out above that. If not, I think by Monday, you're going to get that announcement. Now, in the news today, Tesla's canceled the Cybertruck range extender. They say, quote, "We are no longer planning to sell the range extender for Cybertruck. As a result, we will be refunding your deposit in full." Ford has hiked prices on 3 of its Mexico-produced models effective May 2nd. Prices on the Mustang Mach-E, Maverick pickup, and Bronco Sport will increase by as much as $2,000 on some models, according to a notice sent to dealers. A new $282 million Tesla Megapack battery energy storage facility in Canada has started operations. This 250 megawatt, 1,000 megawatt hour facility is now the largest battery energy storage facility in operation in Canada. The 278 Tesla Megapack units are now officially drawing and storing power from Ontario's electricity grid. Li Auto's CEO praises Tesla's FSD. He says, quote, "The performance of FSD 13 is very strong. What we can see is that Tesla's fundamentals are very solid. In the AI era, mastering the fundamentals is essential and cannot be skipped," he said. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has refused Tesla's attempt to trademark the term robotaxi in reference to its vehicles, according to a new filing. Another application by Tesla to trademark the term robotaxi for its upcoming ride-hailing service is still under examination by the office. The U.S. PTO issued a non-final office action on the robotaxi trademark application, which means Tesla has 3 months to file a response or the office will abandon the application. There was also some rumors that this is a heavily camouflaged Tesla prototype that has been spotted, possibly a more affordable model, or the rumored Model Q. Holmar's catalog posted this, and it does look like a Model Y kind of similar vehicle, okay? It does look like a Tesla, but unfortunately it is a Faraday Future prototype mule. You could see what it kind of looks like here. It's got like a hatchback thing going on. They've declared bankruptcy a couple of times. I don't know how they're still around, but yeah. Waymo says, quote, we've incrementally grown our commercial fleet as we welcome more riders with over 1,500 vehicles across San Francisco, LA, Phoenix, and Austin. Earlier this year, we received our final delivery from Jaguar, and through next year, we will build over 2,000 more fully autonomous I-PACE vehicles for our fleet. Tesla's director of battery technology and powertrain architecture, Vineet Mahita, is leaving the company after 18 years. He joined Tesla in 2007. Tesla says that it had the highest number of test drives ever recorded in Australia last week. They say, quote, "When we launched the new Model Y orders back in January, we had an enormous response to the launch edition. We've only just started to test drives in the last couple of weeks. The boat's been slowly making its way around the country. We're seeing some really strong interest." Elon Musk, or Gorklan Rust on X, says Tesla superchargers enable long-distance travel anywhere in North America except the Arctic. And Tesla Charging commented and said, "Challenge accepted." Canadian police forces are accelerating their shift to electric vehicles. This week, the Kensington Police Service in Prince Edward Island unveiled their new electric Ford Mustang Mach-E patrol vehicle. And Britain's car industry will see U.S. tariffs immediately slashed to 10% from 27.5%, while levies on steel and aluminum will reduce to zero, the British government said on Thursday as part of an economic deal with the United States. Option activity today in Tesla stock is coming in quite positive. You have 171 different trades, totaling $145 million with a positive order value of 77%. Volume today, 64% to the call side. You do have about 773,000 shares that are being sold short today. So keep that in mind. The stock is up over 4% at the time of recording this video, even though you have a significant amount of shorting activity today, which just shows you how strong the buying pressure really is. But again, the only level that really matters at this point is that 200-day moving average. It's actually at about $293 per share. If you can get above that, especially tomorrow, then it looks really good heading into the new week. You essentially have like a gap to fill up here to about $330 per share or so, levels that you last seen towards the end of February, which I think if we get good news out of China this weekend, you could get back into those low mid 300s pretty quickly. So don't be surprised if that happens. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about all of this information down below in the comment section. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.